So we're going to be looking at the quiz guide for the integer quiz for 7th grade. And it's going to be a lot about just basic operations with negatives and positives, also throwing in some decimals and fractions there. So the first problem we have here, 6 minus 12. Again, fairly straightforward problem. When you're doing subtraction by hand, you always do want to make sure you set up as the bigger number on top minus the smaller number on bottom. And 12 minus 6 gives us a 6. And then we decide whether this is going to be a positive or negative answer. Well, with subtraction and addition, the rules is you take the sign of the bigger number. So 6 is positive, 12 is negative because it's being subtracted. And so our answer is going to be a negative 6 because the 12 is bigger, so we take the negative sign. Another way of thinking about it is that if you have 6, but you take away 12, you're going to end up with less than 0 because you're taking away more than what you have. So your answer should be a negative because you're taking away more than what you started with. This one's a multiplication problem, negative 4 times 3. Well, first we just do 4 times 3, which gives us a 12. And then we decide whether that's going to be a positive or negative 12. Well, the rule for multiplication is that if the signs agree, so in this case they do, then my answer is positive. If the signs disagreed, then the answer would be negative. But in this case, the signs agree. This one's negative, so my answer turns into a positive because a negative times a negative is a positive. But that's kind of the shorthand rule for multiplication and division is if the signs agree, the answer is positive. If the signs disagree, the answer is negative. For number 3, here we have negative 7 plus 18. Now, even though it says plus, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do 18 minus 7. The reason is because when I have a negative added to a positive, it's actually going to end up subtracting. So this is going to be a positive 11. And again, the reason it's positive 11 is because the 18 is the bigger number, and since it's positive, I keep that symbol in my answer. But if you have a negative number and you're trying to add it to a positive number, you're going to subtract the values because they're working against each other. One's a negative, one's a positive. They're going to counteract each other rather than grow. On the next one's here, 24 divided by 8, or negative 24 divided by 8. Well, 24 divided by 8, that's just going to be 3. In this case, the signs disagree, right? We have a negative sign and a positive sign, so they disagree. So my answer is going to be a negative 3 because the signs disagree. So the division just behaves as normal. It's just the signage that you have to worry about. The next one here is 3.6 times 4.2. So I'm going to set that up as long multiplication here. It really doesn't matter which one you put on top or bottom. Sometimes it's easier or harder depending on which one you choose. But overall, you can work it either way. So we do 6 times 2, that's 12. Carry the 1. 6 times 4 is 24, plus 1 is 25. All good there. Put a 0 and do my 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 4 is 12. You add them up there. 5 plus 6 is 11, carry the 1. 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. And 1. And then I have two numbers behind the decimal spot here, so I'm going to jump it up twice. And I get 15.12. And in this case, I have a positive number and a negative number, so the signs disagree. So my answer is going to be positive. Or sorry, my answer is going to be negative. My bad. Disagreeing sign means a negative answer when you're multiplying or dividing. Number 6 deals with fractions here. So with fractions, if you're dividing a fraction, you have to remember to make sure you flip the second fraction. So the first fraction is going to stay the same, negative 16 over 15. This is going to flip, however. So it's going to be 9 over 20. And then instead of multiplying straight away, I want to cancel first. So if I look here, 15 and 9, well, both those can be divided by 3. So divide this by 3, you get a 5. Divide this by 3, you get a 3. 16 and 20, again, both those can be divided by 4. So divide this by 4, you get a 4. Divide this by 4, you get a 5. I'm just going to keep the negative sign there as I'm doing this. So now we're going to combine the like terms. So negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. 5 times 5 is 25. And there's your answer, negative 12 over 25. And again, the signs disagree, so my answer is going to be a negative. So just that, sticks around, same rule for all multiplication division. Agreeing signs is positive, disagreeing signs is negative. For this one, again, I'm going to set it up as long multiplication and just work it through. So 7 times 8, that's 56. So 6, carry the 5. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 5 is 12. I could do the zeros if I wanted to, but I'm not going to bother with it because there's going to be a bunch of zeros. So in this case, I have 2 numbers behind the decimal, so jump it up twice. I get 1.26. Then I have to decide, is it positive or negative? Well, in this case, the signs agree. One's negative, the other negative. So in this case, my answer is going to be a positive 1.26 because my signs agree. For number 8 here, this is a special case of subtraction, is that when you have a double negative, when you have 2 negatives right next to each other, what you want to do is you want to make them into one big positive. So this is actually 4/5 plus 3/8. And then before you add fractions or subtract them, you need to find a common denominator. So between 5 and 8, I believe the common denominator is 40. So we're going to times this by 8 on top and bottom. And we're going to times this by 8, or sorry, this by 5 on top and bottom. This is an 8 here. I'm trying to make that a little bit better. So for this one here, 8 times 4, that's going to be 32. 8 times 5 is 40. Plus 3 times 5, that's 15. 8 times 5, well, that's 40 as well, which is good because I want a common denominator. Then I'm going to add these two things together. So 32 plus 15, that's going to give me 47 over 40. And I believe that is your answer because those can't be reduced. If you want to, you can change it to a mixed number. That's fine. But if you leave it as 47 over 40, that's fine too. Now, there's a long division one here. Remember, when you set up, it's the first number on the inside, second number on the outside. So 12.086 and then 5 here. So again, first number's on the inside, second number's on the outside. So we just go down the list here. 5 can't go into 1, but 5 can go into 12 twice. I'm going to bring my decimal up already just so I don't forget it later on. So 2 times 5, that's 10. You get a 2. Bring down the 0. 5 goes into 20 4 times. That's a perfect go in 2. So I'll bring down the 8. 5 goes into 8 only once. And then bring down the 6. Gonna get myself another room here. So 5 goes into 36 a total of 6 times, I believe. Actually, it goes into it 7 times, my bad. 7 times 5 is 35. Now, when you run out of numbers, you don't want to leave your answer as remainder 1. You want to tack on another 0 and bring it down, and then work it again. 5 goes into 10 twice, and now that remainder is 0, then I can stop, and that will be my final answer. It's 2.4172. So with division, you have to make sure you remember to add extra zeros and bring them down as you go through the problem, if you run out of space. The next ones deal with multiple operations at a time. So remember, always do the parentheses first. So in this case, I'm going to do -4 minus 7. So think of this as losing 4, and then you lose 7 more, so you've lost a total of 11. Let's bring down everything else. So 5 multiplied by -11, that's going to be -55. And then you combine these together, -55 plus 8, and that's going to give me -47. Excuse my yawning here. So in this case, again, you just work it piece by piece. Parentheses first, then multiplication, then the addition. Or in this case, subtraction, because one's a negative. This one doesn't give you the parentheses bar, but you have to know that if there's no parentheses bar, you do your multiplication first. So in this case, I would do 8/5 times 1/2 first, because multiplication comes before addition in the order of operations in the PEMDAS. So multiplication first, then you can do your addition later. Now when I do my multiplication here, I'm going to cancel. So I'm going to cancel this 8 and this 2 by dividing by 2. And so I get 4/5 times 1 essentially, which is just 4/5 plus 3/4. And like before, if you want to add fractions, you need a common denominator. So you're going to multiply this by 5. and multiply this by 4. Here we get 15 over 20. And here we get 16 over 20. Which in the grand total, when we add them together, will give me 31 over 20. And again, if you want to write it as a mixed number, you may, or you can leave it like that. So in this case, you do PEMDAS, so you do multiplication first, and then you do the addition second. And this one here is the same thing. You do your multiplication first, and then you take care of your subtraction. So 2.5 times 0.08. So 8 times 5, that's 40. Carry the 4. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 4 is 20. Then again, I could do the rest of these here, but this is just going to give me a whole string of zeros, so I'm just going to stop there and say I have 2 numbers here, I have 1 number here, so in total I have to have 3 jumps. So 1, 2, 3. So 0.2, and then to figure out, is my answer positive or negative? Well, in this case, my signs disagree, so my answer is going to be a negative 0.2. Then bring down my minus 12. So in this case, I lose 0.2, then I lose 12 more, so in total I've lost 12.2. So if you have a negative minus a number, it's going to grow into a bigger negative number. So, excuse my yawning again. The last one here is a word problem. I have to kind of write this as we do it. So it says we start at an elevation of 8 feet below sea level. So we start here at negative 8. He went 9 feet deeper. So he's going down 9 more feet, 9 feet deeper. And then he's going to come up, so plus 12 feet. So he goes down 8, he goes down 9, and he comes back up a little bit for 12 feet. What's his current elevation? Well, that means we're going to be combining all this stuff here. So negative 8 minus 9, well, that's going to be negative 17 plus 12. And then negative 17 plus 12, because they are opposite signs, it's actually going to be like subtraction, and we get negative 5. So currently he is 5 feet below sea level at his current location there, because he started 8 feet down, he went 9 more feet down, so that gets him to negative 17, and then he comes back up for 12 feet, which is where we get the negative 5 from. So that's the guide there. Again, it's a lot of numerical combinations, but as long as you know your 4 basic operations, the thing you want to worry about is making sure you know how to multiply decimals and fractions together, and then, of course, adding decimals and fractions together as well. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good day.